Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this will be the first in a series of videos about web design and web development from a conceptual level. The idea is, I'm not going to be really speaking from a language specific point of view, more from sort of what are the ideas. Because once you understand the ideas, you're just reapplying the same ideas from language to language, from framework to framework. So in this one, I'm going to focus on the front end. What does it mean to when someone says front end? So when you hear front end, you have to think of the browser. So that's the front piece, because it's the piece that the end user sees. When someone's browsing the internet, where are they? They're on, let's say, the Chrome browser. And what does the Chrome browser do? It makes requests and renders results, because that's essentially how the web works, in the sense that a browser is going to send out a request saying, hey, I would like this website. That request then goes to a DNS server, domain name service, which says, okay, well, you want to go to that website. The address for where you'll find this website is over here on this IP address, Internet Protocol address. And that points you to the actual computer where the files are, where that server is. The request arrives at that server, and the server goes, well, based on the instructions I've been given, when you ask for this website, here's what I'm supposed to give you back. And it gives you back some data, it gives you back some HTML, whatever, it gives you back something. Those go back to the browser who receives the response and then renders it onto the screen. Now, when your Chrome browser renders a response, it natively can render 4 different types of instructions: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and in more recent times, WebAssembly, which is not something that's used too much yet, but is going to grow over time. So in that case, a front-end developer is going to develop content in those 4 pieces: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and WebAssembly. Now, let me just, make that a little bit more nuanced. No one's really going to be programming WebAssembly to do front-end work more than people will be using languages that already exist or creating new languages and creating compilers that compile to WebAssembly, because WebAssembly coding in it by itself can be a little bit more painful, because it's like assembly is very close. It's a very low-level language, means it's very close to machine code. But the idea is that now there's a place where other languages can compile to do more front-end web work, because before WebAssembly, everything had to be done in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So no matter what other language you were working in, you still had to learn JavaScript. Cool, so that's the front-end piece. So it's what happens in the browser. So when you're doing JavaScript front-end, okay, it's what's happening in that browser rendered piece, the part that's being sent to the browser and being rendered by the browser. Okay, which is going to have a different feel than when we talk about JavaScript in the back end, which means JavaScript that runs on the server in a different environment, has access to different data. It's like a whole different situation. Okay, it's like me at work, me at home. Okay, when I'm at work, it's a totally different situation than when I am at home. The context is different. Cool. So that's, again, the front end piece. So a front end developer would be working regarding creating the requests for data. So basically structuring a website that'll make the appropriate requests to the appropriate servers to get the data to make the website do what it needs to do. Also doing the visual element, so using CSS to kind of design the appearance of the website, using HTML to discuss the structure of the content, using JavaScript to add logic so that when you click on a button, it does something. When you click on submit a form, it does something. That all happens in the front end through JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, and this is what a front end developer would focus on. The front end does a lot more work, far as a lot more of the complete application's logic is now more in the front end than it used to be, with the advent of what's called a single page application. So instead of having a lot of the more complex logic happen at the server when you make the request, which is referred to as the backend. So when the server receives a request, everything that happens between that request being received and a response being sent, that's the backend logic. That's going to happen on some server somewhere in some other language. We'll talk about that in another video. But now, people will create websites that are basically handle a lot of that work in the response. And then basically it all is done through one sort of big continuous website through frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue. On top of it, a new thing as well is something called a web component. So newer versions of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in more modern browsers now accept the ability to sort of create your own components, in the sense that think of it as creating your own HTML tags that come with their own logic and styling. So now that's the thing you can do as well. You can create web components and put them into your code so you can create reusable pieces of code beyond the components you can already make in React, Vue, and Angular. But that's where a lot of the heavyweight of the application is nowadays. So that way the back end can be simpler and just focus on delivering and storing information. So that's the front end piece. I'll talk to you guys more in the next video. We'll talk about the back end piece. Make sure to check out my website, alexmercedcoder.com, where you can learn more about me, and also make sure to join the developer networking Slack, where you can meet other developers and show your portfolios, ask for feedback, look for mentors, mentor other people, all sorts of really good stuff. So go check that out. I'll see you guys later on. Have a great day and enjoy.